The Earl's mansion bursts into flames, and he and Alira escape. The Earl screams and orders everyone to put out the fire, but the servants shout for freedom and run away. Jake assumes that it is a demon attack. Just then, a blue light approaches them at high speed. Jake tries to attack it by throwing his sword, but it is useless. They dodge the blue light, and Alira plans to fight back. She chants and summons the ruler of tempests. She asks it to fight the demon, and it easily smacks the demon away. Alira hopes it is over because she can't manage to keep the summon for too long. But the demon still got up. It looks slower this time, and just then, Mena and Ronin arrive. Mena asks if the spirit is hers, but Alira denies it. Ronin recognizes the blue light as Gria's guide. The demon exploded, and Ronin explains that a demon had wiped out a stronghold before. The others dismiss his words, but Ronin claims that it was just the guide who died. Just then, a colossal demon appears named Gria of the Wandering Blade. The demon flies out of the portal. It lets out a fiery breath that destroys forests and mountains. The Earl's mansion got destroyed along with the fields around it. Everyone runs away, but Gria notices them. Gria unleashes a fiery breath in their direction, and Mena gets hit. When she thought she was dead, she noticed the micro bikini shielding her from the attack. She feels conflicted though. Alira and Jake ask how Mena obtained such a powerful artifact, and she claims that she got it from a spirit she summoned. Meanwhile, Jin Kyung can't sleep thinking about Mena wearing the micro bikini. He grabs an energy drink and sleeps, but just then, he gets summoned to the other world. Alira looks at him with doubt. Gria keeps attacking random areas in the mountains. Alira wonders why a powerful demon appears in their place, and Ronin claims that Gria appears whenever there is a threat to the demons. Everyone looks at Alira, and she gets mad. She asks Mena to do something about her spirit. Mena wakes Jin Kyung, and he sees new faces. Jin Kyung widens his eyes, seeing Alira. Sorry, it was the Earl in a micro bikini that he saw. He cries and slurs at the Earl. Mena claims that they use the defensive power to protect the Earl, but Jin Kyung exclaims that it only works on girls and asks to get rid of the hideous beast in front of him. Jake takes away the crying Earl, and Mena cries because her life is now ruined. Mena tries to ask Jin Kyung for help, but he looks dead while crying. Mena apologizes to Alira and claims that she should fight instead because she is the best summoner. Ronin flinches, and Alira gets mad. Ronin criticizes Alira for hiding the fact that she is the best summoner. Alira claims she can't go fight in the north because she is a noble running a land. She criticizes them as peasants who didn't protect the north properly and didn't have talents in summoning. She calls everyone useless, and Mena apologizes for being talentless and a burden. Alira condemns Mena even more. Jin Kyung interferes and asks what Mena is doing. Jin Kyung gulps down the energy he brought over and exclaims that Mena is not talentless because she summoned him. She asks why Mena is kneeling in front of a selfish brat. She scolds her and tells her that she should show some dignity and never bow to anyone again. He gags, and a bright light comes out of his mouth. Jin Kyung propels upward and releases a bright light. Gria notices him and attacks with a fiery breath. Jin Kyung receives that attack but throws it back to Gria. Gria dodges, and the ball of fire explodes in the night sky. Ronin and Alira are shocked to see a weird spirit. An overactive Jin Kyung then attacks Gria, but the demon flies higher. Jin Kyung pursues him, and Gria tries to attack him, but Jin Kyung dodges all of Gria's attacks. Feeling threatened, Gria opens its scales and fires off multiple shots at Jin Kyung. Jin Kyung dodges everything and approaches Gria's eyes. Jin Kyung gets near and lightly punches Gria's eyes. Gria's body starts rumbling, and its colossal body explodes in the night sky. Jin Kyung lightly falls from the sky, and Mena tries to wake him up, but Jin Kyung is just sleeping while mumbling. Ronin exclaims that Jin Kyung is the world's savior, even though he looks creepy. Even though he is an embarrassment, Mena knows Jin Kyung is special. Ronin kneels and begs Mena to help them in the north with her overwhelming power. Mena is surprised that it was not her power but Jin Kyung's. Ronin claims that she summoned the strongest spirit, meaning she is the best summoner around. He reminds her of Jin Kyung's words about having dignity. Mena says she is not sure if she can do it, but she'll go and help them. Mena thanks Jin Kyung for giving her courage. At another time, Jin Kyung realizes that going outside is nothing compared to fighting huge monsters. He finally gets the courage to go outside and greet the janitor. Just then, the janitor turns into the Earl, and Jin Kyung wakes up from the nightmare. Mena greets her, and Jin Kyung doesn't remember much after drinking the energy drink. He recalls getting overwhelming power, and Mena tells him that he was sleeping for 2 days. He swears not to drink it again. Mena plans to undo the summons, but Jin Kyung asks to go out first. He looks over the scenery, and he is amazed by it. He asks how the boat is flying, and Ronin appears to introduce himself and explain that the airship is using mana. Jin Kyung thought the mana in this world was gone, but Ronin explains that there is still some circulating the atmosphere, enough to invoke certain spells. However, the ship is equipped with an item created by alchemists called Shulkin, which is constantly absorbing mana from the atmosphere and storing extra mana. Mena looks to the side and observes Benny. In a flashback, Alira tells him to join Mena and that he might have a chance to change his status from slave to commoner. Hours later, they arrived at the king's castle, and Jin Kyung was amazed to see a castle floating in the sky. They ride an elevator after docking the ship. Ronin explains that the king built the castle in the sky to avoid demon attacks. Maina realizes that the castle is the cause of the depleting mana in the world. Ronin warns her not to say her opinion in the castle. They arrive at the throne room, and the king greets them. Jin Kyung stares blankly, and the king asks who he is. Ronin explains that Jin Kyung is his summoned spirit. Duke Kalunik, Alira's father, arrives and confirms that Alira sent them out. Jin Kyung continues staring at them, and he calls out to the king. They were surprised, and Jin Kyung applauds that the king passed his test. Everyone awkwardly laughs and claps, and the king gets flustered. The woman next to the king says that Jin Kyung is just impressed. He asks them when they are leaving for the north. After that, the dukes had a secret conversation about tricking and replacing the king. Jin Kyung, Maina, and Benny set out toward the north with no money and no guards. Benny calls the king an idiot and mentions that the nobles are planning something. Maina warns him and asks Jin Kyung what to do next. Jin Kyung thinks it is the perfect setup to overthrow the playboy king. A hooded woman appears while laughing and tries to talk to Maina. Jin Kyung claims that she can't fool him, based on his experience of watching too much anime. He knows that the hooded person is the red-haired woman next to the king. She kneels and apologizes. She hands over some things given by the king. Later, the king was surprised that Jin Kyung saw through everything, including the political issues and his act of being a fool. Ronin adds further that Jin Kyung has been summoned for several days already and was able to single-handedly destroy the undefeated Gria. The king is glad that someone powerful is on his side. Meanwhile, Jin Kyung says that finding out the cause of demon attacks is their main quest. That night, they arrive at an inn for a meal. They check their map, and they plan to ride a boat in Gria. Jin Kyung wants to go with them, but he needs to prepare some things first. Maina offers to undo the summons, and Jin Kyung disappears. People notice Maina and Benny. While chatting with a waiter, some men observe them. They go out, and Maine tries to buy food. Just then, she noticed her money was missing, and two men walked away laughing. Later, the two camps are outside, and Benny comments that Maina will be the cause of the country's demise. Meanwhile, Jin Kyung returns to Earth. He hears his father shouting and banging on his door. As he tried to open it, he got pushed by the door, which was forcefully opened. His father shouts and asks what Jin Kyung is doing. His father scolds Jin Kyung about locking himself in his room without eating. They have been knocking for hours. That's why he is furious. Jin Kyung's mother tells him to calm down and that she'll talk with Jin Kyung. Jin Kyung's father goes out to smoke and complains about having a son like Jin Kyung. Jin Kyung's mother is worried that he hasn't eaten for the past 2 days. Just then, she notices bread she doesn't recognize buying. Jin Kyung claims he is doing something important and asks that you leave him alone. His parents are distressed, and Jin Kyung complains about getting hurt in this world. Meanwhile, Maina and Benny have been traveling for 4 days on foot. Benny complains about not getting a carriage. Maina complains that Benny bought a fishing rod, but he can't even catch one fish. Maina grabs the fishing rod and immediately catches a fish. She complains about being a good farmer and fisherman. They cook the fish Maina caught. Just then, the whole area trembles and a demon passes by their camp. Benny panics and finds the fish they're cooking, but a woman steps on it. The woman notices them and asks what they are doing. Maina tells her that they are on their way to the port city. The woman tells them not to camp near the river to avoid demons. Just then, one of her men calls her Captain Aika and reports that the beast is coming back. She orders everyone to attack the demon. Maina tells Benny to take a look, and she sees Benny crying over the crushed raw fish. Later, the demon comes back and Aika pulls up an arrow. She fires the arrow and hits the horned demon's eye. The demon tumbles forward, but she pulls out her sword and slices the demon in half. Benny asks if it was magic, but Maina notices something about Aika's sword. Later that afternoon, Aika welcomes Maina and Benny to their camp. Aika claims that they exist to protect people. Benny asks Maina to make Aika and her team volunteer for their mission. Maina asks if she used magic earlier, but Aika explains that it was the dagger she used. Maina asks if it was the shuriken, and Aika asks why Maina knows alchemy. Aika explains that it only stores mana to create a magic blade, but it takes a day to recharge it. Aika's companion mentions that Aika can also kill demons with a normal blade. The two decide to tell Aika about their mission. They ask Aika to assist them in going to the north. They ask the two kids not to play around. Just then, Maina brings out the royal command order and asks them to assist the expedition to the north against the demon attacks. She orders on behalf of the king of Gorva. Aika recognizes the royal command seal. Meanwhile, Jin Kyung locks himself in his room. He notices the A-tag shining, but nothing is happening. Back in the other world, Maina gets tied up to a pole while Aika is asking her why they are going up north. Maina answers that they need to find out why the demons are attacking, and Aika slaps her. Aika claims that she doesn't trust the foolish king. Maina wants to mention the king's real facade and the nobles' corruption, but she can't put it into words. Aika tells her that she also went to the north before. She was tasked with delivering documents to the king, but the king's men ambushed them, and she lost her comrades in her left eye. She burns the royal order and realizes why her eye is hurting more than usual. Just then, One of her men reports that a huge demon is on its way to their camp. They see a colossal demon, and Aika remembers encountering it in the north. It is the Lord of the Wall and the Master of Gria. She wonders why Kultovia has come to their location. Main asks her to let her go. She claims to have defeated Gria, so she can defeat Kultovia. Meanwhile, Jin Kyung is now doing the daily licking of his favorite figurine. Just then, the edit glows and Jin Kyung disappears. Will Jin Kyung be able to beat the demon with his favorite figurine? If you want another part of the recap of this manhwa, comment below and make sure to like this video. Subscribe for more content like this, and see you next time.